So what I've got here is a sheet of A3, sorry, A3, that's what I told you to get. And also all you need for today are pencils. And I'll just bring in the ones that I have here. This is just a mix of things. And for drawing, generally, you want soft pencils that are in the B range. So the hardest one that I've got here is B. And depending on what set you've got, you might have as soft as an 8B, but these silver ones, I think, go up to about a 6B. But it doesn't matter so much. So long as you've got at least up to a 6, that's fine. And if you've got more, then that's even better because you can convey a wider range of tones and textures that way. So what I would like you all to do is to choose, let's start with a 2B pencil. You have that. And we're going to draw, have your paper so that it's landscape like mine. So with the paper in landscape, I would like you to draw going along the top edge, starting from the top left. I'd just like you to draw 4 boxes. They don't have to be perfect boxes. Don't worry about rulers or anything like that. Just 4 boxes. Okay. All right. And once you've done that, I'm just going to pull my paper down so that the top left box is filling up the screen. Just move that and zoom in. Yeah. Okay. And what we're going to do is to start filling in this box so that it's as solid and as dark a color as possible. So with your, so how you hold the pencil, as we'll find in this exercise, is not necessarily how you will hold it to write. So I'm holding mine just a little bit further back. So if I were writing, I would grip it close to the tip. But for this drawing exercise, because we're going to be layering the color, I'm setting it a bit further back. So this is about, say, about 3-ish centimeters from where the wood runs into the pencil coating. And we're just going to start by shading in or filling in this first box with tone. So we're just going to go in straight lines, going up and down the page. And you're just going to softly layer the color in. So the reason I'm setting my fingers further back is so that I don't press too hard. If you need to fill in the solid area, then it's best to go softly first and then build. And I'm using the straight lines respective to the shape of the box that I've drawn. And so there's a directional quality about this, in other words. And don't worry if you go over the lines, that's fine. That's not the main point of what we're doing. It's more to build tone. Okay. Now you just work from left to right, filling out the box. And again, don't worry too much about being neat. All right, so apologies for the camera's a bit shaky. And then you're just trying to get as even coverage as possible. So again, just do the best you can. And then what you'll notice is that the pencil becomes flatter on one side as you do this. It starts to turn into a bit more of a nib. And that will be handy later on as well for when you want to convey soft light. which is also very important for illustrating yarn and fabric. Okay, so I've got one layer of color in here. Now, next thing to do to build the next layer, I'm going to turn the paper through 90 degrees so that it's now sort of portrait. I think for me, because my keyboard is in the way, I'm just going to shift this up a little bit. Let's see what's comfortable. Yeah. And then start going the other way, doing exactly the same thing again. So I'm building the color. If you feel like for your touch, because you know, this is very personal how you use the pens and pencils, then you can go harder if you want to. The main thing is that you keep the pressure as uniform as possible. So don't go really hard towards the edges and then start softening up as you get towards the middle. Just keep it as consistent as you can. And then, of course, you can go over any areas that you feel need a bit more attention. So what you also find by holding the pencil further away from the point, you become much more conscious of the pressure that you're actually adding as well. And if it helps you to sensitize your arms and hands, you can roll your sleeves up, as I've got as well. My sleeves are pushed to the elbow. You can't see it here, but they're pushed quite far up. And sometimes that can help you become a bit more attuned to exactly how much force you're applying. Okay. So it should look fairly even. And then now, once you've finished that parcel portrait, go back the other way and then just keep filling in the first square until the tone is as dark as you think you can possibly get it. So we're layering the darkness. And if your pencil is getting a little bit worn or weary, it's not making much of an impression. Most pencils, I'll just stop for a bit to show you, have got a bit of a octagonal profile. And sometimes all you need to do, rather than sharpen the pencil, is to just rotate it by one groove in either direction. So I was holding mine like this. I can tell because the pencil's quite flat. If I then turn it about one stop towards the right or left, it doesn't matter. That gives me a fresher edge in case you find it a bit dull. And then continue shading things in. So I'm just going back the other way, and then after working backwards, I'm going to rotate the paper again. So it's making sure that you don't bias too much in one direction or the other when you fill in something as solidly as you can. Just going to rotate the paper again. Okay. And then work across the other way. So we're just layering the color, working in the various directions as set by the box. We're working first portrait and then landscape, and then alternating to build the color as best we can. So we're aiming for a solid fill. Okay, so I think everyone will get the idea of this, just filling in. If you wanted to, you could go diagonal as well. But again, we're just focusing on the direction as set by the outer lines. This is helpful later on when you come to fill in shapes, because how you represent the tone and how you draw these lines has relationship to the outline of the object itself. So directionality is really important. And when it comes to skeins of yarn or grains of fabric, this is something to bear in mind. Okay. All right. So I think that's mine for now. I think that's about as dark as I can get it. I'm just going to turn the paper landscape again and pan out. This is what you should have, one dark square in the top left corner. Okay. So what we've got here with this panel, we're going to draw a transition going from dark to light. So we've got the darkest square in the top left. We're going to leave this square in the top right alone. So this is going to be left blank. This is our white. And then what we're going to do is, using the same pencil and relying on our pencil control only, we're going to create a 4-step grayscale going from darkest to lightest. So you can start with the one nearest the dark square. So this is going to be middle left. And using exactly the same techniques that we've just done, we're going to create a lighter shade. So this is going to help you to recognize the different spectrum on which light falls. So you note here that I'm beginning by holding the pencil, just come down a bit more, even further away from the point. And the further away from the point you are, the more softly you'll be able to tone in. So you can see here that I've got a very, very soft, barely discernible on the screen actually. But that's how soft you can get it if you hold the pencil far away from the tip. If I go even further out towards the very end, then that's very, very subtle again. Let me try and come in so you can see a bit more. Yeah, that's just about focusing. So yes, you can see, get all of my hand in the frame. I'm right at the end of the pencil, and you can just about see that a mark is being made, I hope, but that's how delicate you can be just by changing the point at which you grip the pencil. So you won't need to be quite that light now, but bear it in mind because there's going to be more where this came from. I'll come back out again. And like I say, exactly the same thing. But begin by holding the pencil further away than you were. So maybe 2 or 3 times the distance from the first point. And again, keeping a consistent pressure and building the tone. So that's one layer. And then if you feel like that's a bit too pale for you, then on the next pass, when we turn the paper portrait, then you can go heavier. So it's connecting, it's hand-eye coordination that we want to build up. If you feel like you need to go heavier, or you can go heavier, or you should, then do that. You can either get closer in, like I am here, or you can apply more pressure from the same point on the pencil. I would experiment and see which one feels more comfortable, because then you'll know what's going to give you the effect that you want later on. So a lot of experimentation even now. And again, if the pencil becomes a bit too dull or a bit too sharp, just rotate it around maybe one step or two, and then keep going. Okay, once you're done in another direction, the other direction, again, turn the paper around, just as we did before, and then go back to landscape. So at this point, just be aware of how dark the first square is, remembering that we're transitioning from dark to light. You're looking to create as even and as seamless a transition as possible. Okay, I think that might be all right for me. I'm going to move on to the third square. If you're still on the second one, don't worry, just work on it for as much as you're comfortable working on it. If you feel like that's enough, then please move on. Again, just moving my hand further back here because I want this square to be even paler than the last one. Okay. And then turn the paper. Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going to pause here, and I think you don't have to if you don't want to, but every so often when you're doing something like this, where you're conveying a relationship of light and dark, always, and some of you will know this already if you've had drawing classes, take a step back and have a look at what you've done holistically. And in this case, It's seeing whether any of the squares need to be darker or lighter, if there's any other bits of refinement that you need to do. And if you feel like that all of your squares, however many, need to maybe be darker, then that's okay. Don't worry about making them lighter, because that's part of the exercise. But always, every so often, just take a step back and have a look. Make sure that you're not just shading in a vacuum and hoping for the best. Because even at this stage, this is a composition of sorts. You're telling the story of going from dark to light.